So really privileged and excited to be here and inspired to be here as well to talk to you all today. My background is corporate global accounts, as the title just said before that. I've been working at Hayworth now 7 years, managing large global corporate accounts. And that's what really informs the research that we're going to talk about today. So since I've been here and since I've been talking about the region, this Vision 2030 keeps popping up. And this is such an inspiring topic, I think. It's a topic that so many companies, so many people are talking about, and it seems like the region and the country really believe in this vision and really pushing towards this vision, and I find that quite inspiring. And it's quite different to the rest of the world. I think you just don't see this anymore, where countries and regions and communities rally behind one big idea. But as part of that idea, of course, you are going to want to attract the best talent to the region. So we're going to look at how we're going to do that, how we can do that, and how some of the world's largest global companies do that. So as you can see here, there's already been some big investments to the region with some large corporate companies, such as Amazon, making some large investments. But one big one here I want to point out is Microsoft, with their large investment here, with a significant number of people. So how are they going to attract people to this building? What type of people are they looking to attract? And that's what we're going to look at a bit more as we move through. Also, there's been a big change in Saudi Arabia in terms of the talent within the country or within the region, and that's moving from oil for the energy industry over to high tech and AI, etc., and cloud. And this is quite an interesting slide. Looking at the median age here of 22 among Saudis in the workplace, and the majority of people in the workplace being millennials or Generation Z. So what type of workspaces do we have to design to attract these people? Yeah, that's what we're going to look at. So what are Generation Z and millennials looking for in their workplace? So this is some of the research that we found, and you can see the source here as well, so feel free to visit the source. So millennials looking at collaboration, meaningful work, digital adaptation, so tools to do their job, etc. Generation Z looking for more work-life balance. So I think we've seen that more and more come into the work with hybrid work, with flexible work, etc. Development opportunities, so they want to know their career path, sometimes before they even start at a company. And then also values alignment and flexibility. They want to work at a company that feels as though they support them, they believe in what they believe in, and so they have that sense of belonging within the organization. So what are some of the Generation Z, what are the characteristics of the Generation Z culture in the KSA? Well, highly educated, first of all, often well-traveled with career aspirations, entrepreneurial, digitally capable, advanced in social media, so they get to see what's going on in the market, global perspective, social awareness, and also traditional values as well, forming their opinion about the workplace, as well as well-being. So now we're going to look at 6 global workforce challenges of 2024. The first one being AI, which I think everybody's talking about at the moment. So what does AI mean? What impact is that going to have? So really looking at the impact to the workplace. Are people going to lose their jobs? Is AI going to replace them in the near future? And I think we've seen a little bit of that now, but I think we can look at how we educate a new workforce, and we'll touch on that as well. And we just talked about unemployment here and how that could be impacted. And 23% is such a large number, 1/4 of the workforce potentially being lost because of AI. So what do we need to do to solve that? Well, we have to look at upskilling the workforce. So we have to look at a new education, looking at how the next generation of the workforce can contribute to their company or organization, to their industry. And that's going to require upskilling, a new education, and continuous learning as well. Digital jobs, which is of course huge now in KSA with the growth of the gaming industry particularly, but that's always going to be a growing factor, I think. especially with the emergence since the pandemic of people wanting some distraction or wanting some immersion in other forms. Digital media and digital jobs is going to be a big driver moving forward. Hybrid working will still be there, and 46% of the workforce being interested in hybrid work is and this is what we're seeing from company to company in large corporations. Half of the population do want a hybrid working environment, but that could also be influenced by their current working environment. They want to work at home because they feel more comfortable working at home, and we'll touch on some of that as well. Inclusivity is a really interesting and big topic, and this not only important for the workplace culture, but also looking at some study that we found, which is I'd recommend looking into, is the impact that's going to have on the economy. That the more we bring a more diverse workforce into companies, that will benefit the economy long term. And I thought this was quite interesting from the World Economic Forum, looking at the 10 skills on the rise. And this also leads into the AI developments that we looked at earlier. So I won't read them all out, but you can see some of them. Like the first one there being creative thinking. We don't believe that AI will go in the direction of creative thinking in the near future, not to the degree that people will trust or be excited about. So creative thinking is still high up there. Resilience, flexibility, and agility. So having a workforce that can be agile, move with the times, etc. And motivation, of course, and self-awareness, being quite interesting. And AI, of course, having knowledge and experience with AI is going to be important. So what does a good space look like? And these are the topics that we're going to look at now as we go through these next slides. So the younger gen prefer an office that it's an office, but it's not always an office. So something that could give you a coffee shop vibe or a hotel-like vibe or a clubhouse type feel, but also has that corporate look and feel as well. So when you want to really focus, you want to bring a client into the space, you want to show them what the company's about. So that it's still important to have that corporate atmosphere. Innovation. So that the most leading innovative companies, and I think this was said by Gensler in another presentation earlier, yesterday or today, looking at the most innovative versus least innovative organizations. And the most innovative, and this is a percentage of those companies, have all of these different facilities within their workspace. And there's still so many companies that don't have that. But when you start seeing the more successful spaces, you're seeing that they're taking care of all of this. And I think the outdoor workspace is particularly interesting right now. We're seeing more and more of that, particularly even in the Middle East. A space for learning and socializing. I think people want a purpose. They want a why to go into their space, and learning and socializing is going to be one of their key reasons for going into the office. A space for connecting and socializing also. I think that's going to be a key component. They're going to be looking at when their colleagues are going to be in the office, when their team's going to be in the office, and that's going to drive when they also come into the office. And a workplace that is inclusive and neurodiverse. And we talked about exclusivity before, but another topic is neurodiversity. And we're seeing more and more of that being looked at within corporations at the moment. Neurodiversity is becoming more and more important. And not just to have an inclusive space where people feel comfortable, but companies know, especially tech companies, if they get this right, if they find a workplace where everybody feels comfortable and motivated and productive, then their output's going to be so much higher. And a workplace that provides autonomy and flexibility. I think this is also key. So people have the choice about where they want to work. People might want a focus space, they might want a desk, they might want to sit with their colleagues, but they also might want a place where they can collaborate, where they can learn from each other, where they can teach new skills. And it's important to have that flexibility. And a workplace that delivers belonging. I think this is particularly important, and we're going to come to a case study at the end, where pretty much their entire brief was all about belonging because of some of their cultural issues that they had. And a workplace that includes remote workers as part of the space. Now this has become particularly to the fore of the last 2-3 years, where they really want to make the remote workers or people based a long way away from the office to feel included in the space, to feel part of the culture. And it's having these types of creative spaces where you feel as though they're in the room. And there's so much technology innovation going on in this space as well, that I think this is really a future area that we need to look at, even as a company. Acoustics, I mean, this is a big topic for Hayworth. Hayworth has made a huge investment into various acoustic companies over the past 3-4 years. People want to have a space where they do feel they have some privacy, they feel as though they can focus, they're not distracted by what's going on around them. But they also don't want a space that's too quiet, so they don't want to be completely outside of the office. They want to sense what's going on around them, but they just want some more quiet time to focus. And lighting, of course, ambient quality and circadian rhythm is particularly important. There's a lot of people working late, some people start early, and they want to be able to see that progression of daylight throughout the day. And biophilic design is becoming more and more to the fore as well. Interesting study that found it doesn't always have to be natural biophilia, it can be fake biophilia, and it still provides the kind of the same effect in the workspace than natural biophilia does. But of course, outside is still better. Now, looking at cultures within the workplace. Now, this is a tool that we have at Hayworth called the Competing Values Framework. And this is where we look to study or analyze a particular company that we're working with. And we break it down, we break down their workplace or department or building into these 4 categories and look at how they can all work together. So you can see that each of these cultures have different requirements from the space. So the collaborative culture do want more space for informal meetings. They want more spaces to connect and to connect very easily. So when they feel inspired that they can connect quickly. The creative want a place to think, to be able to study, to be able to look, to design together, to really come up with ideas. So it needs to be a space that inspires them. The control culture, of course, is more about information. How to study what's going on within the company, within the department, and how to then deliver that message across the business. And then the compete, of course, often a sales type space. That could be a number of the 2, number of the 4, but a place for doing with lots of shared tools, etc. And then this looks at how this might change over time, and this gives you a bit of an idea about how we measure this. So one company in 2021 might look as though they're more of a compete culture with some collaboration, and then over time that company might change. So it's important that every couple of years we look to measure this within the companies that we're working with, or within the departments that we're working with, or the offices that we're working with. And this is the difference in the different age groups, and you can see they all look or require something slightly different. Now, this can be stereotyped a little bit, but it is something we found across multiple organizations, and this is where it generally orientates itself. So Gen Z still looking for more collaborative space, but are looking closer more and more at control, but particularly compete. That's a very strong motivator. Millennials still pretty much control, but also heavy on collaborate and create. And now we're going to look at also some spaces about how we design space to incorporate the different cultures. So the collaborate culture here, you can see a bit of a drawing, and I was going to show you some real spaces or some design of spaces, how we look to incorporate these different cultures. But you can see the collaborate culture here. A lot of occasions to just touch down, to meet together, to share ideas. The create culture, a place where you can always have a place to draw ideas, to bring ideas in, to visualize ideas, etc. And then the control culture there, more privacy. See a lot of law firms have offices more like this. And then the compete culture there, still slightly more open, but with a lot more focus space. So looking at the control culture, we talked a little bit about it just a moment ago. But these are this is a typical work setting for control. A little bit more privacy, more cellular office space, but different aspects of the office to look at different things. The compete culture, again, there's a little bit more privacy here again than the creative, which we'll get to, the more the collaborate culture. But there's still space to collaborate, to message, to connect with people. The create culture here, way more creative, a lot of colour, a lot of places to draw ideas, to bring ideas in, to visualise ideas. And of course the collaborate culture, always places to touch down, no fixed address, and multiple places to connect with each other. And I wanted to finish on a case study. So this is, Ubisoft was quite big in the media for their company culture. They had a few failed launches of their products, and they were looking inside at their company culture. And I've put a QR code here. You can take a look at this. There's a video on our website where you can see the transformation that they went through. But this is a really interesting case study because I think there's a disconnect between the senior management and the people in the various offices around the world. The senior management really thought they had a really great culture, and they wanted it. They believed it. They wanted to invest in it. But then as they did the research, they realized there was some disconnect between the offices, between the teams, and they really wanted to bring them together. So this was a really good case study about how they did that and the investment they did to do that as well. Well, that's all from me. Thank you very much. I'll leave it on the slide just so you can use the QR code. But thank you very much for your time. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to take them either now or after the session. But yeah, thank you very much. Much appreciated.